Well, you're very much in our thoughts.
I appreciate it.
Well, it's now 2:05. I propose that we start the conference. And as I indicated in the email that transmitted the revised document this morning, as Jack had set up in a previous administrative organization for this conference, he suggested that we talk 3 to 5 minutes prior to anybody talking. If you could please identify yourself when you start the conversation and let us know when you have completed the conversation. Let us hear all the people who are on the conference first, and then after that, if there are any questions or deliberations, we can have the deliberations at that time. Jack will also place this teleconference on YouTube, and he will send you the information on how to listen to our conversations. Any questions on that?
Nope. No, sir.
Okay. Then let's proceed. Whoever wants to go first. Does that mean nobody wants to talk?
I will say something if nobody else does. Yeah, I'd like to respond to Jim's program or his document that he sent out. I've got some questions about that, Jim. In checking with Will, none of your people up there in Jacksonville are members of NACCRA because of your community association thing that you paid for $200. And he says none of your people are on the list for NACCRA. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I can address that. The proposal that I had was that if we in turn tied the community association membership across the CCRCs and those who were members of that would provide an incentive for the FliCRA residents to join at a reduced rate. Obviously, this is contingent upon having a document that is vetted showing the value that NACCRA has provided, could provide in the future, and what the timeline of that future value that you would provide. Then that could be a basis for a reduced membership, would provide a basis for a CCRC, a Florida CCRC resident, FliCRA resident, to become a NACCRA member.
Jim, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but NACCRA for several years was depending on associations, and on a December 17th, Jack Cumming wrote, "Since there is not a perfect congruence of purpose between NACCRA and the state associations, it is desirable that we move away from thinking of NACCRA as an association of associations and instead embrace the concept of NACCRA as the advocate for the individuals who live in CCRCs or who can potentially benefit from moving to a CCRC." And I don't think, Jack, I don't know if you can correct me on this, but is NACCRA accepting community memberships anymore?
Well, they sure took our $200 in Cypress Village.
Yes, yeah, the change has not been put in place. The thought from the committee that Charlie has chaired has been to phase out those community memberships, so to convert those into individual memberships. But maybe Charlie would want to talk to that.
Yeah, Charlie Polk here. I assume that the community in Jacksonville we're talking about is Cypress Village, is currently a Brookdale for-profit community now.
Correct.
To say that they have never had NACCRA members is an absolute untruth. At one time, Cypress Village was a strong supporter of both NACCRA and FliCRA. And one of the beauties of the state of Florida has always been, from my association with it when Jane Gale Boyd was the CEO Leading Age Florida, she actually, as the CEO of Leading Age Florida, would make absolutely no distinctions between a for-profit and a non-for-profit. And that relationship worked well over the years, and is one of the reasons that Florida has flourished over the years. Like a lot of new births in the United States, people with goodwill have taken the wrong path to follow. And when NACCRA was first started, they had assumed that they would never take anything other than state members as members of NACCRA. Well, and what made them go down the wrong path like that, absolutely the first 9 states that they contacted all joined NACCRA. But those 9 have the only ones that have existed up until the state of Illinois and Washington came along, and they were at it. But it became obvious to some of us who joined the effort later on that we would be much better off with an association of individual members advocating for all seniors than we would for working with an elite group of state associations to take that road. So it took a long time to get this all changed. We really thought when Brookdale come along and bought several of the for-profit communities in the state of Florida that was going to be a giant step forward for the for-profit communities, particularly in Florida, because they had all been treated as absolute equals all along. But for some reason, even when Brookdale got started, occasionally we make a wrong step, and Brookdale does not materialize like we thought it would materialize. Hopefully that's going to change. I know it's very unusual for a state association to have a state president who lives in a for-profit community. And we have had that existing in Florida more than once. And in fact, Pat Aaron's, our current able Madam President, lives in a Brookdale community in Bradenton, Florida. And I might add, an outstanding community. What I would like to see us do is, we're all a group of aging population that has latched on to a CCRC concept as a way that we would probably like to spend
our remaining times on this great earth that we live on. And I'd still like to see us get away from the for-profit, and treat everybody with due respect, and they deserve to be treated. One of the things as I've watched this committee develop is that there's been a huge misconception on how you get things done in the United States. And I've heard $3 thrown around until it was really getting a little boring to hear it, because folks, you can't get anything done in the United States without spending some money on it, and $3 is not sufficient money to spend. We have a golden opportunity now with some new energetic members from across the United States wanting to do something to create a large enough member base on a national level where we can actually make a difference without charging an outrageous amount of dues. When we have the potential of putting together 200,000 or 300,000 members at this stage of the game and charging $10 or less members for them, that's a lot of money, and you can get some things done with. And I can tell you, I've had some opportunities to work with the Senate Committee on Aging when Senator Cole from Wisconsin was the chairman of that committee. And he really misread the people that lived in CCRCs and the providers who were operating CCRCs. And he thought that just pointing out some things that was the right thing to do would cause massive new regulatory system to be put in place, and the burden on the backs of the residents would be removed, and we would start doing what was the right thing to do for our senior population. Well, we're still not there, and we're still floundering with that, but I still see it as a golden opportunity for within the next couple of years to put together a couple of 100,000 members. And we picked a trial thing to take care of, to show that the nation could respond with it. It was one that the City Committee on Aging was partial towards, and that was total financial transparency. And I'd really like to see us keep our eye on the main thing, and to me, that is still the main thing, is to show the population of the United States that reasonable men will take reasonable actions to do what is correct and reasonable. And if we keep our eye on that goal and don't let the little things get in the way, we can get this big monstrosity called NACCRA moving in the right direction and serving not only seniors in CCRCs, but advocating for seniors in all kinds of housing throughout the United States. I wish I could have continued this, but I can tell you I'm convinced that we've got able participation, and I assume I've joined the task force from working on Florida right now, and I still think this is the key to get things moving, and I really, my heartfelt gratitude goes out to all of you who are willing to tackle this and get something done. And one of these days it is going to happen, and you're going to feel good about your effort in it. And Jack, thanks a lot for stepping bailing me out at this stage of the game.
Mr. Chairman, this has been it's a minor point, but I know we'll get to the bigger document itself. But to Bob's question about Cypress Village, we had members in NACCRA in Cypress Village starting in 2001. Most of those people have passed away, but we, as Charlie said, we did have a number of members in NACCRA for a number of years in the early 2000s. We don't have any currently outside of yourself and your wife or life members, obviously, and then a community association. But I did want to concur with what Charlie said about Cypress Village specifically.
Well, Bennett, are the people at Cypress Village, are they members now?
No, I'm a large member.
It's a member.
I'm a large member.
Yeah, right. So, Bob, I mean,
I don't know the roster. I'm not privy of looking at the NACCRA roster for Cypress Village. But what difference does that make? Whether Cypress Village has a member of NACCRA or not. The point is that from the FliCRA perspective, which is the task force that the FliCRA board set up, our charter is to work with NACCRA and see if we can come up with some common methodologies, something that can help NACCRA without impacting the FliCRA membership.
Wayne, did you want to
Jim,
talk?
this is Wayne Forehand. Can I speak?
Go ahead, Wayne.
Thank you. Charlie's talking about 200,000 members for NACCRA, and I guess when I just run some numbers through my head and said, we got 2,000 CCRCs in the country, an average size of about 400. That's only 80,000. Think about FliCRA, where we got a great mantra and we go out and we got some great things to sell. We're only getting 50% of the people here in the state. So if you only got 50% of that, you get 40,000. I mean, we're just 200,000 is just, there aren't that many. There aren't that many people.
Well, 2,000 times 400 is 800,000.
2,000 times 400. 2,000, 3 zeros, 400, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well,
Okay, 800K.
Okay, but 800.
Right?
You're right. You're absolutely right. Excuse that comment. My numbers run together like the decades now. Thank you.
Wayne, did you want to talk to your objections that you and Karen shared today?
Yeah, I would. Jack, I guess the real key that some of the things we're saying is, Jack, we'd really like you to say, what are the 3 or 5 things that NACCRA could actually do in the next 5-year period? Let's pin these down exactly, and when we think they could be done. And because, like I said, here at FliCRA, we've got a mantra, and we come out and we tell them, and we get a lot of people signed up. We don't get them all, but we do get a lot of them. And I guess my thoughts are that we don't want to become. I think I read this one thing about the idea that we would offer discounts just like AARP and these kind of things. I think some of this stuff we want to stay away from. A lot of these items that we've seen on Bob Smith's list, they're things that we've already got going here in Florida. And they're things that don't affect a whole lot of the CCRCs here. And I think, Jack, what we need to do is pin down what are the specific things in a lot of detail and what kind of time frame we think we could get them done in. I see a list that we'd say we'd be able to get board members mandatory. And I'm saying you're never going to get leading age to support you on that. And now that NACCRA's got leading age as a affiliate with them, I mean, Leading Age is much, much bigger than NACCRA. They're giant. We tried to get this mandatory thing here in Florida last year, and Leading Age wouldn't go along with it. So we know that they're bigger than we are, and we let it slide. So these are a couple things, I think, Jack, that I'd like to see us start out and say, what are the 3 to 5 things that NACCRA really could do realistically? And let's get some agreement on that. And then I'd like to suggest that FliCRA people sit down and say, okay, let's make up a list of pros and cons. What does this do for, what are the positive things this would do for FliCRA? And let's think about what the negative things that it's going to do. Because there's going to be a loss of membership if it's not handled very carefully. So those are my real comments here.
Thank you, Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, I could call you Mr. Chairman if that's right. I'm not sure if that's correct, but try this.
No, Jim.
Okay, all right, very good. Obviously, I know everybody on the call very well, and so I've shared with most of you, both in person and or by phone. You know, I clearly have a unique role here relative to 2 hats, and I will try to always not to mix and match them and you know, ensure I'm speaking clearly and in terms of what perspective. I have a question at this stage more than a statement, and you know, obviously I was at the in-person board meeting with FliCRA, and then certainly I've read the correspondence. The question is, I mean, I think it's to any of the FliCRA representatives, based on what was discussed at the board meeting, in general, you know, and knowing that FliCRA, let's say FliCRA, but Florida specifically, has a, you know, has currently and has had a decent number of members, not in terms of percentage of the FliCRA membership, but in terms of NACCRA's membership, we do have a good percentage of NACCRA membership. I didn't hear a sentiment from the FliCRA board that there's a, you know, other than some of the new folks, you know, with a lack of understanding or awareness about NACCRA, but I think people understood the national perspective that certain things are federal in nature and certain things are state in nature. So that's the easy part. The question is to the FliCRA volunteers and representatives, is the logistical management aspect of achieving, you know, additional collaboration, if you will, and or recruitment of NACCRA members through FliCRA communication channels, for lack of a better term, is the logistic management part of the equation, is that the biggest barrier that you see present, or is it, as Mr. Forehand, you know, said, or in that, you know, is it value proposition in terms of what values bring delivered? I want to see what the response is on the balance between the two, the logistics as opposed to the value, and I think that would help, you know, this group, you know, go forward one way or the other in terms of discussion.
This is Jim Jadler. Let me take that from my perspective, not as the chair of this task force for FliCRA, but from the perspective of the person who has been the treasurer and the membership chair for 2 years here at Cypress Village. From the membership chair, and we have gone through 2 cycles of membership drives. Membership is a very difficult task, and we have a lot of support, a lot of documentation that comes out of Tallahassee that we utilize continuously show the value of FliCRA to its membership for renewal and new members. And we put out a lot of information over and above that, to which we are targeting our membership. And when I say targeting our membership, I'm really talking those in independent living. We do not target those who are assisted, Clare Bridge, which is memory, or skilled nursing. Those are already us. We do have a separate element here at Cypress Village, which creates a challenge, and it's about half of our independent living population. It's a group that we call equity homes. These are people who own their own home and are not part of the life care community. They're part of Cypress Village, but they're not part of life care. They're not guaranteed the continuing care that a life care member gets. Their perspective is, what value do I get? Because the regulations are kind of directed towards those in life care, and that's what OIR really focuses on. Which, by the way, OIR does not differentiate typically between profit and non-profit. Now, that creates a challenge for us in trying to ensure that those in the equity homes do either renew or join FliCRA. For me to turn around and ask my FliCRA membership here at Cypress Village to pay an increased fee, and that increased fee is mandatory for them to become a NACCRA member without any value statement concerning NACCRA, that's a non-go. That's a no-go position whatsoever. Absolutely, and it will significantly, I suspect, impact the membership here at Cypress Village. The only way that I see here at Cypress Village is to have the documents like Bennett has created for FliCRA, identifying, we have right now a flyer that is 2 pages worth of benefits that FliCRA has achieved for the CCRC community. And we utilize that, and that's what I believe I need here at Cypress Village in order to convince the membership that FliCRA, Cypress Village membership, that there's value for them to join. Now, that's Jim Jounda talking, but I also have heard those same comments discussed at our board meeting last month. So there is a lot of concern about maintaining the FliCRA membership. My draft proposal, and that's all it is, it's a draft proposal that is a FliCRA task force proposal, has attempted to move this towards an optional membership. I link to the community association, like Cypress joined, not state, but the community association of $200, to use that as an incentive to somehow offer a reduced membership fee to NACCRA initially, in order for them to see the value that NACCRA has after we have this document that shows us what NACCRA has done in the past 17 years for the residents. And in turn, then we can, at some point in time, fold them into a full membership, whatever that may be. Decision in the future. But let's hook them first on the value of what NACCRA has done, could do. Bob Smith created a survey, and I say let's vet that survey and show what NACCRA has done, what NACCRA can do, and let's blow that through the FliCRA community to see what Florida residents are willing to pay for NACCRA. They'll give us some baseline. Right now, we don't have a baseline. Bob Smith on 5 people told him $23. The people on this FliCRA task force have said, we got to start from the bottom and work it up. Maybe a couple dollars. Right now, if from what I've seen, I have joined NACCRA because I felt I can be a better FliCRA board member. Not because I personally believe that NACCRA currently is doing a lot for me. I absolutely do not see that. I do agree with Charlie that when you get several hundred thousand, if you can get there, you can really impact your senators and representatives. I belong to an organization that can bring together 300,000 responses into the Senate building and the House building on a given issue. All they got to do is send an email out, and they'll get 300,000 emails back to their senators. Yes, and it makes a difference. So I agree with that, but you got to start somehow. And the past 17 years, you don't have the track record that FliCRA has. I'm done.
Jim, just, could I speak for a minute or two?
Yeah.
I don't give me the credit for this. I just compiled what Jack Cubby did. Jack wrote some things that were possible for NACCRA to do if they had enough revenue, and I just compiled these things. None of this is my creative thinking. All I did is put it on a piece of paper. And so you need to thank Jack for all of this, for his brilliance on it. But I agree with you 100% that we need to get a sheet of some sort of the benefits that, we can't get much that NACCRA has done, but we sure can get a few things that NACCRA could do if they had the funds to do it. And I think we should talk to our residents, and we should start from the bottom and work up, and find out just how much they think that would be worth for them. And so I think if we start from that point, I think we would be heading in the right direction.
And that's the point that Wayne had. I'm sorry, this is Jim Chandro, and that's the point that Wayne had was, what can you do in the near-term future? Tie it to a budget, tie it to a timeline, tie it to something to which you can quantify, and you've got some milestones set out there. It's kind of like a strategic plan that NACCRA puts together and says, here's what we're going to do. And it's based on, dollars, based on membership, based on how many community associations you have, or, something. And then, then in time, we hold NACCRA accountable for achieving or not achieving.
Yeah, Jim, this is Wayne Forehand again. What I want to say is I'm a member of NACCRA, and I think NACCRA has a place, but we've got to sell it better, and that's why I say we need 3 or 5 things. Really, very pragmatically explain what could be done, how they could be done, and really put some details into it if we're really going to make this thing work. And we haven't done that. We've got Bob's list. Jack put a lot of things here, and like the way I see it, some of them are kind of a dream, and some of them are already taken care of here in Florida. And so anyhow, that's why I say I think NACCRA first, before we do anything else, needs to come up with this very nice, concise list of 3 to 5 things that they think they can do that is going to be very beneficial, like the things we use in our mantra. You know, we got our 3 key items, and then we got 2 pages of additional things.
Wait, I'd like for you to clarify for me the things that Florida has done that's on this list.
Well, okay, look at the very first one. On the guarantee funds, that's just exactly what we talked about at our meeting, our last meeting, that we're expecting ORI to come forward with for this coming for 2017.
We haven't done that yet, though, have we?
No, we haven't. But it's in the works. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be part of the 2017 legislative package, to which OIR, Leading Age Florida, and FliCRA are working on.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, on the insurance things, you know, on this, we talk about annuities. State laws vary on how annuities are insured. They're not all the same, and that's a state thing. You know, that's a state issue right there.
That's not so. All the annuity guarantee laws are identical in every state. They're based on the model laws adopted by the National Association of Insurance
It's
Commissioners.
supposed to be very new, Jack. Is that right?
No, it's not new. It's been in place since 1871.
Well, the information that I've always had is that some states insure at a much higher level than others, and be very careful which state you're buying your annuity from.
Well, I don't know where you get your information.
Okay, then, you know, hey, I don't know everything. You're an annuity guy, and you understand it. But, I mean, okay.
This is Rod Rexford. Could I have a word?
Please, Rod.
I think we have to be careful not to get bogged down in minutia and get back to the big picture. You say we need to give members of FliCRA a reason to join NACCRA. Someone mentioned the 3 reasons why someone should want to join NACCRA. I'll give you 3. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are in grave danger in this Congress that's coming up. They're looking for places to cut government spending because they're not going to raise taxes to meet the deficit. And the biggest target they have right now, and they're looking at it very hard, is to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid benefits. If we just take those 3 things to every member of FliCRA and say, here, we're renewing your membership for $18 a year in FliCRA, and you have an option to make an investment in saving your Social Security, because we can't do it as one state. But NACCRA is national. If we can get everybody in NACCRA across the United States sending money to our lobbying efforts in Congress, we'll be able to save our Social Security. It's just how we present this thing. So I think that what we need to do is not get too wrapped up in trying to prove whether something's beneficial or not. Let's come up with a plan and launch it. If it doesn't work, then we can modify it as we go. But my proposal was that we offer every renewing FliCRA member a membership in NACCRA at a reduced rate of $5. It won't scare them. And $10 for a joint membership, you know. And I think if we do this, we can get a lot of NACCRA members very quickly. We have a lot of proof that FliCRA has saved residents money. It's paid for itself many times over. I mean, when you can make an $18 a year investment in FliCRA and get back back more than $800 a year in savings on your monthly maintenance charges. That's real benefit. I mean, you can't get any stockbroker that'll give you that kind of returns on your $18 investment. So we sell it that way. They buy it. We can do the same thing with NACCRA if we just take those three things. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid are in real danger right now. Yeah, I think we can get their attention. Thank you.
I agree with you, Rod.
Okay, Wayne Forehand speaking.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you just right off, we have most of our residents on automatic payment. You know, they sign the form for a given amount of fee. We're going to have to go back through and get every one of those re-registered. And I guarantee you that we're going to lose a number. The other thing, I've taken those three items, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Number one, people here, we don't take Medicaid. Number two, I've taken it to people, and they're saying, wait a minute, we've got our AARP that handles that for us. Why don't we, if we want to worry about those situations, why don't we work a coalition with AARP instead of trying to expand NACCRA? Enough said?
Well, it's very easy. The AARP is a big organization, but
Really big.
they may not be big enough to handle this one. And if we can get NACCRA going to back them up, I mean, it's how you sell the thing. That's all that counts. I mean, we can't go in there and say, you know, we think this might do something that you might want to participate. You got to give them a positive view of it. And it's all in how you sell it, I believe.
Well, this is Wayne Forehand again. Just real briefly, I've talked to the board here, our chapter board, and trying to get their input and trying to understand so that I can represent them. And this is the kind of input that I'm getting from them. That let's get some real concrete items. I mean, number one, we got AARP. Why don't we use that? It's going to take NACCRA more than a year, more than 2 years to get to any sizable. Just coming to Florida, it isn't going to get them to the size that they need to be to anywhere near what they need. And AARP is really big. Enough said.
AARP is going to take one approach to preventing the damage. NACCRA has the opportunity to come at this thing from a different direction. It will be a huge supplement to AARP's efforts. And if we manage to sell this program nationwide, we may be able to do more than AARP can do. But if we just do nothing, we will only have ourselves to blame if the whole system fails, depending on one organization working for us, and that being AARP.
Jim, this is Bennett. Can I bring something up, or just a question? Okay. I'm going to paint a hypothetical scenario to kind of gauge where we are. And I don't think any of us can dispute the grassroots perspective of Florida residents or the impacts to topics that have already been put on the table. So a different question or a different scenario that I'm asking you to visualize. It's been put on the table that there's a value issue. So step one, as Mr. Forehand and a number of you illustrated, is if we determined, if there was a 3 to 5 topic list, whatever that list is, that resonated with the Florida market, and my assumption is if it resonates in Florida, it would resonate in other states too, so it would have mass appeal. But if we narrowed this list down, and this, I think the list is good because it gives you a starting point, but let's say we took the top 3 to 5 on this list and said these are the ones that only can be dealt with at the federal level to actually affect change. Rank those, determine what they are, determine what the action plan is, and had that as a selling tool, if you will. That's a step in the process. The second part of this hypothetical scenario is if there's concern, and I mean it's been raised by some of you, so it is a concern by some for sure. The logistics of doing dual billing or mandated billing, if you will. FliCRA doesn't sell its membership list for obvious reasons. We don't sell it to anybody, including NACCRA. So, however, we have communication vehicles, and if we came to a consensus, quote unquote, on those top 3 to 5 topics that could only be achieved at the federal level through a national effort, and that's your platform, do you think the FliCRA board and or membership would be open to NACCRA having the ability to have news coverage and or links to a membership application in FliCRA communication vehicles that are specifically related to those national platform issues? So it's a hypothetical scenario. It's got puzzle pieces to it, but I'm trying to address some of the barriers that have been discussed to determine where the comfort would be in that kind of scenario, where it's more subtle, still gets the message out there, still enables people to voluntarily join as they do now, those types of things. So it's a question.
Bennett, this is Jim Jandro. Let me tackle that first. As a person who does the membership drive here in Cypress Village, I have a spreadsheet to which the basis of that spreadsheet came from Lauren 2 years ago. I can very easily add 2 columns for individual membership or life membership, put a value in there, and then when I send my annual membership or whenever I update my membership here at Cypress Village, what I do is I send that format to Lauren, and she then extracts it into the database. And I send the money accordingly. My transmittal email identifies the number of life memberships that I had, single couple, the number of individual memberships, single couple, and I can very easily do the same thing for NACCRA. So all I got to do is in the form that I ask my members to fill out, all I got to do is add a couple more check marks for people to identify whether they want to become a NACCRA member and the appropriate amount of what the dues is. To me, it's a very, very simple, not labor-intensive. That part, to me, is administratively easy. The harder part is to convince the memberships that there's value for them to check block that element about NACCRA. And that's the difficult part, and that's the reason why I say, okay, that's fine. You got to give me something to which I can distribute to the membership that shows what the value is. NACCRA, realistically, is not going to be able to do anything against Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare in the very near future because they don't have the resources for it. We could do more here in Florida with Medicare
by taking our FliCRA board and meeting with Senator Nelson, who's the minority leader on the aging committee in the Senate. We could influence him a lot more than NACCRA can. And we can do that from the FliCRA perspective and address Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Why? Because that is a very serious issue in the state of Florida. That's the reason why we can get a lot of traction in helping NACCRA. I don't deny that we can get traction in helping NACCRA, and I'm strongly in support of that. But if you want membership and you want dues, you gotta give me a reason on why I should join NACCRA.
Right. Absolutely right, Jim.
This is Jack. I think the approach you're suggesting is pretty much what Bob Smith did there at the Estates of Carpenters, isn't it, Bob? And you have pretty good success.
Say that again, Jack. I had lost the phone. I'm sorry.
Okay. I think what Jim Jandro just was talking about is about what, excuse me, been sick, is about what you did there at the Estates of Carpenters, and I think you had pretty good success.
Yeah, I think so. That basically what we did was that we had the business department do it for us. Some people are saying that their business departments won't do that, but our business department said they would help us out with that. And we send in one check for all the members. We have 132 people here at Carpenters who are members of NACCRA, and there are only 433 throughout the whole state of Florida. So we have about 33% of all the people in NACCRA right here in Carpenters. And we did this by selling it on an individual basis. We went to each person individually. And as we were selling FliCRA, we talked about NACCRA. And they said, sure, put us in. We had a lot of responses, positive responses. Of course, we had a lot of negatives, too. But we did have a lot of responses on that. And so we just write one check in August for the whole bunch. And they're billed on their next month's dues here at Carpenters. And that's the way we handle it. So actually, there's not that much work up in Tallahassee for us at Carpenters, I don't think, because we just send one check and that's it.
And that's the same thing I was talking about. Administratively, to me, it's not a major issue. I wish I could get our business department to do the billing, but I lost that fight with Brookdale.
Well, we're working on it, Jim. The initial response wasn't too positive, but we can work on it. I think it's one person. If we can persuade that one person, we'd be home.
Yep. I agree. He's the one that made the decision.
So have we gone about as far as we can go today?
Well, no, we've talked, this is Wayne Forehand, we've talked around the subject. Bennett tried to come up with a very pragmatic action plan here. And I think he said, number one, that we wanted Jack, you, to develop 3 or 5 things with a real good action plan on exactly what you think you can do to get these implemented. And then we could go out and try to sell from that. And I think that's the first thing that we have to do. And we haven't agreed on that.
What's your reaction, Jack Snader? We haven't heard from you yet.
Well, it's been most interesting listening to the interaction. I say that if my deposit is safer in an insurance policy or in an annuity than it is as a deposit in a CCRC, then I'm all for taking out some modified insurance program, and I call insurance what we're talking about, a NACCRA insurance. Don't really mean insurance. But whether it's $5 or $10, I think it's worth it. And if you're in it for 3 or 4 years, that's $40 or $50, and you don't see anything happening, pull out of it. So I think it's a good thing, and I've come 180 degrees from being very enthusiastic about NACCRA and being turned off because of management, and getting revitalized again, and then being invited to be on the board. I think it's a no-brainer, and that pardon my expression, my Mickey Mouse material of trying to document what all we do, if you did every year on every investment you made, particularly whether it's in, what's the other organization that everybody's talking about?
AARP.
AARP. I mean, nobody thinks twice about putting $15 or $20 into that. And most of them look at it and judge whether it's worthwhile, whether they get discounts on their hotel rooms. I think that that's a political organization, and I'm disappointed for the many years that I used to belong to that, because they are so left-wing. No offense to anybody who's on this conversation about being left-wing, but I would rather put my money into NACCRA and know that that doesn't have biases one way or the other. AARP is looking to sell insurance, and that's the primary objective, and I think that's correct, Jack, at least from my exposure with them, sitting in their offices talking about what their objectives were when they go, and I was a consultant. So I think I respect FliCRA, what they've done. It's admirable. I think we can pick up a lot of ideas from FliCRA and what we could do and how we can move things forward. But they have momentum. They've got a good talent of people to draw from. We have a lot of rebuilding to do, but I think we're stuck in the weeds here trying to determine, what are we going to do 3, 4, 5 years from now. I said when this committee first began, not the second committee, but the first one with Charlie, I said come up with 3 things. We can go sell those 3 things, and people will either be with us or against us, but if we don't have those 3 things, whatever they are, and I think they can be very specific, such as total transparency or protecting your deposit or whatever it is, but it's got to be something that's financial, not something that's very soft and intangible. I think we've got a chance, and I would hope that FliCRA would be part of this, because there's some great people in FliCRA, and getting FliCRA people involved with NACCRA, I think there's a combination here, there's a synergy that could be tremendous.
Jim, this has been, if I could, and I respect Mr. Letchworth implicitly in terms of the objective. The only thing I would add, and I've just given perspective, because, AARP has been referenced a lot. It's public information, so I'm looking right at their 990 tax return. I looked it up while we're online, or while we're on the phone. Their operating revenue is just under $1.4 billion a year. So, AARP at the national level, the parent organization in D.C. So, now the interesting part about it is, to Mr. Snyder's point, is the lion's share of that revenue is not membership related. So, the point's valid. I think NACCRA's sweet spot, just as FliCRA's has been, is we're not all things to all people. We have a very specific mission and purpose. We own that mission and purpose, and we sell it. So, anything we could do that specifically focuses on continuing care issues that nobody else is guarding the hen house but NACCRA, that's what we have to sell. So there is a compelling argument. I just think we have to pick the right issues, and it's an easy sell. But my point was this group and NACCRA's board, whatever it may be, has to come up with what are those key issues that are no-brainers. Everybody understands them. Everybody sees the cost-benefit aspect of it, and then whatever the price point is, it's a a no-brainer. And I think, Wayne Forehand said it correctly. I mean, I don't care. We could have the best platform ever, both at the state level and the national level. We're not going to get everybody. But if we can get the majority, then that's the best we can hope for. So, obviously Rod Letchworth will be in D.C. Saturday. I'll talk to him. I see Jack Cummings Saturday, and Jack Snyder as well. I look at this as a journey. It's a process. I mean, I was there, as I told the FliCRA board and the NaCCRA board, when, NaCCRA got started back in the, with Milt Brummer, was FliCRA president at the time from Florida, and, I saw NaCCRA get started here in Florida. I think as long as we can stay focused on overall whatever the objective is that the board, respective boards agree to, then there's always a way. Finding it sometimes is difficult, but I think we have more common ground than not. But I clearly understand and respect the fiduciary duty of FliCRA board members. Clearly I have the same responsibility from a staff standpoint, and so I understand implicitly the peeling back the onion aspect of this, but I just hope we don't throw in the towel early in the process and then work through it, and whatever the outcome is, then so be it. But I think ultimately we're all on the same team in terms of continuing care issues in that standpoint.
This is Jack. Earlier in this conversation, Bennett asked the question: is that communications are value? And clearly, it's both. We need communications, and I think Jim Jandro started speaking to that if we can, work to communicate what NaCCRA can do, then people will be willing to join with us. On the subject of AARP was formed by the Colonial Penn Life Insurance Company to be able to sell insurance to older people without having to meet the regulatory requirements for individual insurance. So they formed AARP so they could issue a group policy which has fewer protections for individuals. And that's been its main thrust. Their main input, for example, on the Affordable Care Act was to hold that a requirement that the premiums for older people be no more than 3 times the premiums for the youngest people, even though the costs are 7 times as great. And that's hurt the program because it's driven out young people. So that's AARP. But I think we clearly have work to do, and maybe it would be appropriate for us to take a short breather in this, but to try to work out a joint communications program and a joint agreement on what value we can bring to you.
Yeah, Jack, this is Bob. If that could be possible, if we could get just 3 or 4 items, and I like what Bennett said, that it would relate directly to NaCCRA, that only NaCCRA would be able to help support this sort of thing. If we could get 3 or 4 items like that we could present to our residents, I think that would be a good start. And
this is Jim Jandro. I would like to modify that if that's agreeable, i.e. modified in the context of what you have done in the past, i.e. what are those 3, 4, 5 things that you currently have provided to seniors. Then in turn, take it for the future, let's say the next 3 years, that you could provide, and if you achieve, make it conditional. If you achieve a certain membership or budget number,
on that, okay? We'll move on.
Your silence is agreement.
Well, I agree with you, Jim. I think you make
Waiting for him, I agree with you.
It's Rob Leclerc. I think it's an excellent idea, and I think the idea of each one of us contributing to whoever's collecting the notes on this, or maybe you can get together up in Washington. I don't know exactly. I'm real new to this. I think there's a lot of benefit here, and I think if we play our cards right, and don't be too hesitant, but try things. Take an idea. If it sounds good, try it. If it doesn't work,
the following participant has left the conference.
Charles.
What we did on the last teleconference is that Jack put together an analysis, and I put together some of what I felt were the pertinent discussion points by each individual, and we circulated that back to the attendees to provide a baseline. In the last email that I sent this morning, I had included the last discussion points of the teleconference. So we have that, and I think it appears to me that the task that we have now is asking NACCRA to come up with the pertinent value items that NACCRA can provide to senior members. And then whether we would be ready to have another teleconference in 2 weeks or so, then we could do that, and then we'll have a baseline from which to talk to.
Well, NACCRA's board is meeting this Saturday
Right.
in Washington, so why don't we just hold off scheduling a follow-up, because if we're until we see what we're able to put together. It's clear that there's considerable pushback against the idea, so maybe the solution would be to continue as we have, but to give NACCRA a little more visibility in the state of Florida.
I would not contend that there's pushback. I really don't. I don't think that's where FliCRA is coming from. I think where FliCRA is coming from is that we want to know, FliCRA want to know what is the value in order for us to sell an optional NACCRA membership. And that's the reason we've been, I think I don't want to try to put words in Bennett's mouth, but I think that's why Bennett was saying let's identify the value points that NACCRA has in order for us to get NACCRA memberships from our FliCRA members. I really don't think it's a pushback, to be honest. That's not the thrust of what I put together as a quote FliCRA proposal. What my attempt was attempting to identify the issues for us to talk about, and in turn see how we can come up with a plan
to go forward.
This is Jack Snyder. May I speak for a minute?
Like,
I'm relatively new to NACCRA on the board. I'm a lifetime member as of 2014. I don't think I have ever missed in getting somebody to join NACCRA when I use some of these points. That there's more government protection if you live in an apartment or a condo than there is in a CCRC. That my deposit is safer in an insurance policy or an annuity than what I put on the apartment to move into the CCRC. And that the older I get, the higher the risks to me and my wife for protection. So while you're young and while you're energized, give me $20 to join NACCRA. And I don't think I've ever been refused. How many did I get? Somewhere in the vicinity of 80. But that's just running into people in the hallway. And nobody ran away from me. They would tell their friends and say, come talk to Jack. What is this again? What are we doing? And the education of the resident about what the lack of protection that they have convinces them we ought to do something. I said, we're going to start something. We're going to try to do something. Then we started the state chapter and say there's things we can do in the state, there's things we can't do in the state that we need national. And so what we're looking for is one deposit of a certain amount of money to cover both NACCRA and ILCRA. ILCRA is the Illinois CCRC group. And we want to move forward. And we're sort of holding up because it's too hard to make two sales or too slow to make two sales because it's confusing. We're both going forward for the same thing, some at a state level, some at a national level. So the question, I think, for FliCRA is, are we looking at $5, $10, $15 to add on? And anybody says they can't afford it, I don't think we want them. If $5 on a yearly basis is too much, let's move on. My goodness, guys, what you're paying for your apartments, that's a drop in the bucket. That doesn't even buy you a drink down at the bar. So let's not worry about everybody. You want it or not? You want to have that protection, and at the others, I'd say if they're over 90 and don't function too well, then that's something else to be worried about. The reason I didn't attend the last meeting was my wife had took me out for 2 days to celebrate the 39th anniversary of my 39th birthday. So I'm getting up there in age. But I'm excited about NACCRA and what it can do. I'm really excited about what FliCRA's been doing, and I hope there's some ideas I can steal and take back to Illinois and see if we can add them there, because there's a lot of synergy in both groups working together. And as somebody said earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't catch the name, but he said, I think it's a sales job. And I think absolutely he's right. This is a sales job. And we don't have to do it by paper. We have to do it by talking. And those three things, you know, if you're safer in an apartment, why don't you move out of the condo life and move into a motel? Because we all live in a cruise ship that never leaves port. And we have a wonderful lifestyle, and I'd like to protect that. And I think there's so much we can accomplish together. I feel a strong pushback from FliCRA, and I think maybe that's the way the written material came to me. I sat down and read it, and I was very discouraged as we started this meeting, but I'm optimistic that we can do some things together if we're willing to move forward. It's going to be easy, but let's move forward. And if the $5 is acceptable, I would push for 10, but 5 is certainly appropriate. And with the newsletter and handled the way it's being planned, I think that would make good sense. And as I say, I wouldn't worry if somebody doesn't have the $5. Maybe they've got more money and they don't care if they lose their deposit. I know of people who are in that category. That's the end of my speech.
Well, Jack, this is Bob Smith. I agree with you completely. And I think you guys, Jack Snyder and Jack Cummings, on Saturday you guys could come up with 3 or 4 good ideas that you could give to us that we could take and run with them. And so I would be looking forward to that.
Okay.
Do we agree that that's the plan?
Jack, sounds good to me. Rob Letchworth.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good to me.
yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Was that
Good.
Jack T?
I'm sorry you were broken.
I'm sorry, did I hear a yay from Jack C, Jack Cummings?
Yes, I said let's do it.
Okay, that's what I thought I recognized, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think we've made a lot of progress today, and I can tell you what I'm going to be pushing for is a way to present these concepts to people that are resistant, because you sell with questions, you don't sell with presentations. If you ask people, did you know you're safer in an apartment or a condo than you are in a CCRC? They'll say, no, and then you explain it to them.
Jeff, this is Wayne Ford, and you got to think that here in Florida, we've been telling our people how safe we've made them being part of FliCRA, and this is kind of a reversal. So just, you're in Florida now, not Illinois.
Right. I understand that. And you are safer in FliCRA, but you can enhance the safety with also including what the government does, because we can't control government.
We can if we're big enough.
I'm sorry?
I say we can influence it if we're big enough.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay, this is Wayne Portland again. You're going to have to do something about the other states that are refusing to join.
We'll have to sell to them.
That's right. And it's not just Florida. You need to be working on them at the same time.
Well,
My contacts in North Carolina are saying that they're not very willing, or they're being pushed, and
well, you're
the state board member, and it's not going well up there.
well,
Let's do it here and take it up there and show them how.
yeah, you're talking about particular people in North Carolina, and I understand what you're talking about, and I know about the Ginger Clifford group and all of that, but we have to convince them, and they have the same kind of questions that you've raised, and they're appropriate questions. We need to be able to answer the questions. How's the election going to go down there next week?
Nobody's dumb enough to answer that question.
Stay away from that. Jack Snyder, this is Bob Smith. What part of Illinois are you from?
Eastern suburbs of Chicago, Naperville.
Naperville. Well, I was born and raised in Peoria, Illinois.
Oh, yeah. I remember Peoria.
That is,
But you ever in Peoria?
well, outside of Peoria, a little town called Eureka. That's where I came from. But I identify with Peoria. Okay. All right. Nice to hear you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
It's good. Thank you.
Let us conclude this teleconference, and Jackson will be sending out the link to the YouTube, and I will go over it and try to come up with the talking points that came out of this teleconference, and I'll shoot that out to you guys and review it. If there's anything that I did not properly document, then modify it, and then we'll have a record of this conversation, a written record of this conversation.
Okay, thank you all.